Hello, my name is Jocelyn Bell and I'm a Development Studies concentrator. My research began on a cold December afternoon in New Delhi, India. I was sipping chai with an activist whose organization thought that it had found the perfect place where sex trafficking survivors could receive rehabilitation and services. But the landowner's mother had rejected the lease. She worried that the neighbors would believe that her family was running a brothel if former prostitutes lived on the property. I began to wonder, what does society perceive as so bad about the prostitute that the stigma of her past stays with the woman even after she retires from prostitution or escapes sex trafficking? And what can be done to destigmatize, that is, remove the stigma from the prostitute? First off, what is stigma? Stigma is the stain upon a person's character and the subsequent discrimination that results from society's reaction to a perceived human difference. To help remove the stigma attached to prostitutes, sex work feminists conceptualize prostitution as another legitimate form of labor. Their methods have met with some success. However, I argue that these destigmatization strategies could be even more powerful if they challenge the cultural basis of stigma. Now, there are many different cultural institutions that object to the prostitute. I chose to focus on the institution with the largest demographic in India, Hinduism. I was interested in traditional Hinduism in particular. By traditional Hinduism, I mean the Hinduism of the Brahmins. Brahmins belong to the uppermost caste in the caste system or religious hierarchy. Although the caste system wasn't created based upon notions of power and authority, through the years, Brahmins have used it to gain and maintain high social, economic, and political status. My research sought to answer the question, what is the relationship between traditional Hinduism and the prostitution stigma in India? I also wanted to explore Bollywood, the Hindi language movie industry based in Mumbai, as a potential tool to destigmatize the prostitute by reframing her story. To accomplish all of this, first, I read two major Hindu scriptures, the Ramayana and the Law of Manu. My content analysis of these two religious texts provided an understanding of the traditional Hindu structure that the prostitute threatens. Then, I used content analysis and grounded theory while viewing 5 Hindu-themed Bollywood films that have a prostitute as a main character. The 5 films were Mosam, Chingari, Mandi, Devdas, and Laga Chunari Mein Daag, Journey of a Woman. They revealed the interaction between the prostitute and traditional Hinduism, as well as Bollywood's potential as a tool to destigmatize the prostitute. Through my research, I found that traditional Hinduism stigmatizes the prostitute because she threatens the gender roles of its patriarchic structure. This institution stresses the importance that a woman should always be subject to a male relative, a father when she is a girl, a husband when she is a woman, and a son if she becomes a widow. Or else she will shame her family by giving in to the inherent wickedness of her gender. Traditional Hindu society views the prostitute as a woman who has lost self-control over her inherent wickedness because she doesn't have a righteous man to guide and guard her. The film Mosam gives an excellent example of this belief that a man needs to bring a wayward woman to righteousness. Before meeting an upright man, the prostitute Kajli is brash, sexually aggressive, and possesses bad habits like wearing immodest clothing, cussing, and smoking Beedis. After this righteous man transforms her, she dresses modestly, smiles sweetly, and has stopped smoking. As a result of the unchaste nature of her work, Hindu society finds it easy to link the prostitute with lust and thus other negative attributes like greed, aggression, and laziness. Traditional Hinduism then separates a prostitute from acceptable society, barring her from marriage and therefore respectable motherhood. This leads to status loss because she can't earn respect in the community as a woman without the decency that the guardianship of a righteous male relative gives. In fact, the prostitute isn't considered a complete woman. In the film Devdas, the male protagonist expresses these ideas when he talks to the courtesan Chandramukhi.
और यूं महफिल में मर्दों के सामने नाचना बेशर्मी। तुम औरत हो चंद्रमुखी, पहचानो अपने आप को। औरत माँ होती है, बहन होती है, पत्नी होती है, दोस्त होती है, और जब वो कुछ नहीं होती तो तवायफ होती है। तुम कुछ और बन सकती हो चंद्रमुखी।
The upper caste lends real consequences to being classified as a prostitute by using the political, social, and economic power they historically gained through their religious caste advantage. This impedes the prostitute from obtaining the decent quality of life that comes with basic social, legal, and health services. For example, in the film Mundi, the high caste Hindu moralist Shanti Devi, an influential member of the municipal council, successfully evicts a group of prostitutes from their property, not caring where they go afterward. To give women a voice while deconstructing inequitable gender roles, some feminists in India use cultural symbols like Durga. They believe that this Hindu warrior goddess will give women agency independent of any relationship with a male relative. Feminists that work to destigmatize the prostitute should also consider using cultural symbols to give the prostitute a voice. Chingari was the only film that visited this possibility. The director depicts the prostitute Basanti as a manifestation of Durga when she kills the Hindu priest who oppresses the villagers. The director not only gives prostitutes and other women agency, but she also maintains a tie to Hinduism. In this way, the prostitute's fight for human rights is more legitimate to the Hindu community because she doesn't forsake religious devotion as she expresses her desire for respect. However, Bollywood still has some way to go. At the end of all of the films, a man still has to save the prostitute or else she faces further despair. Even in Chingari, Basanti has to leave behind her embodiment of Durga and depend upon a man to take her and her daughter to a better life. More research exploring the sources of the prostitution stigma is necessary because it will unveil the social and cultural structures that ensure the stigma and human rights violations continue. For example, globalization's contribution to the prostitution stigma merits further research. The globalization process has created a dialogue of East versus West in India in which the prostitute appears, as is shown in Laga Chunari Mein Daag. In the film, the director divorces the prostitute Vibha from any Indianness, instead rooting her identity in the West. Vibha's style changes from Indian to Western, and she begins to wear more makeup. She also changes her name to Natasha, which is considered more sophisticated than her birth name. She does this in an attempt to separate her innocent identity from the stained identity she takes when she enters prostitution. This separates the prostitute from not only her Indian identity, but respectable society as well, since according to traditional Hinduism, westernization is equal to a loss of family values and a rise of sexual aggression. I also believe that further research should be conducted on the portrayal of the prostitute in additional cultural mediums in India, like theater, dance, and music. These are other potential avenues through which to effect not only destigmatization, but cultural change in general. Artists have already made some headway through dance and drama to create awareness of women's rights violations. One artist who has pushed for awareness is the activist Malika Sarabhai. She has retold Sita's story in a one-woman show called Sita's Daughters, attempting to encourage people to challenge traditional thinking and gender roles. She has also given a TED Talk on the power of dance to affect social change, entitled Dance to Change the World. This research isn't just about prostitutes. It is about the women in India and around the world who are current victims and those who are future survivors of attacks on their basic human rights. Understanding what the social and cultural forces behind stigmatization are can help efforts to remove stigma and protect human rights. Thank you for your time.